Yeah, you can clip. Good morning, Greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, the United States, and the world. My name is Eric Ellis. I'm the president and CEO of Integrity Development Corporation, and I want to welcome you to another of our weekly installments in Diversity Conversations. You have a surprising look this morning. I am all by myself. Man, I got to sing the song all by myself. I don't want to be right. Shut that down quick. I am missing my good friend and co-host Tommy Lewis, but Tommy and his wife are vacationing, a well-deserved vacation. He just turned 50, so we want to say happy birthday to Tommy Lewis. He is a very young-looking 50, and certainly I think that we have to find ways to make sure that we celebrate milestones in our lives and that we take a break from what we're all going through. And so, community, I'm going to certainly invite you to join in with me this morning with your comments, questions, thoughts, because I don't want this to be a super short show, but it could be. Because I think that it's so great when we're able to engage in these conversations together. There are a number of things that certainly have all of our attention as we come up on this week. We've been waiting for many of you. Maybe you've been waiting for 4 years. For some of you, you certainly seem like it's been a long year trying to get to this presidential election. And once again, we have an opportunity to go to the polls if you haven't already done that. And you get the chance to weigh in on who you think should be the leader of the greatest country in the free world. That's the United States of America. And there are many people that are predicting kind of cautiously that we may have a transition from President Trump to Joe Biden, but I'm not so sure that that's going to be the case. And there's a pollster that came out with a poll that says that he sees Donald Trump winning again. He was one of the very few pollsters that predicted in 2016 that Donald Trump would be the president of the United States. He had a number of surprising, I think Falgrith or something is his name, had a number of surprising polls that he was correct in the 2018 election. And so I'd like you to weigh in. What do you think? What does it mean for this country in terms of who will be our next president? Has Donald Trump earned his ability to the opportunity, the honor of serving the American people once again for 4 more years? Or is it time for change? And I think that there's a lot that we have to think about for some of us, and for others, very little that we have to think about. I was at the game last night. Good morning, Terry. I'm so glad you're here, Terry. Man, I wish I could send you a link so you can jump right on the air with me, my friend. But I was just at the regional finals last night with Lakota West. I went out there with my mask on and everything because I wanted to watch these boys hopefully try to pull off, the greatest win in football in their history as a school. I went there. They were playing against the always winning St. Xavier High School. They were winning for most of the time. They were up 7-3. I thought they'd squeak it out, but right there at the end, the referees came in with the call, and West choked. Kid, come on now. The refs came in with a call. They were robbed. They were robbed. That's what happened last night. They were robbed. But I tell you, I'm very proud of the Lakota West team. It's kind of shocking. I mean, they had a coach for 18 years that wasn't able to make the same kind of successful progress as this new coach. But we're grateful to see the team be very competitive. Went with an undefeated season and then went to the playoffs as far as they've ever gone. They got to the regional finals, and last night they lost that game 10-7. At the game, I saw a young man and his father that grew up playing ball with my kids. And it was an interesting conversation at the game. And the young man's father was sort of, pulling for Biden, if you will, and his son, who's the huge Donald Trump fan. And he was just really out there sharing a lot of his opinions about, Donald Trump and what a great president he's been and all of this. And to see his father, the older person, say that he had come down with COVID-19 and had almost lost his life. And his son doesn't really fully believe that it's real. And so this is interesting times, but I'm telling you, there is a great deal of passion that supporters of the president have. They have a great deal of passion. And why do you think that is? Because I think that some people are saying that people that really love the president almost have a cult-like following for him. Some people felt that same way about President Barack Obama. What do you think? Why is this? Does Joe Biden have any of the same kind of passion on his side? Is it people that are just sort of voting against Trump, or are they in fact voting for Joe Biden? I'd certainly like to hear your perspective this morning, because we're probably going to be entering into one of the most consequential elections of our lifetime, one that can change the trajectory of our country and where we go. And the work that I do around diversity and inclusion, it's been interesting how the president's executive order to try to eliminate all diversity training or heavily scrutinize it. It's been interesting how that's played out. I have one department that I've been working with that wanted to sort of look over all my slides and sort of review and analyze those. But I did something within this department that I've never done in the history of my business. I did focus groups, fish bowls, which we've done, for the last 25 years. But I invited the people to participate in a videotaping of those events. And I shared with them that I'd like to share their words with the broader organization. And so as the government began to scrutinize some of my slides, I said, you know what? I don't really even need my slides. I said, I've actually got something better than that. I'd like to share with you the words of your people as they talk to you about what it's like to be diverse within your organization, but also for some white males who were super honest to just break down their view of people of color and women. And I had some white men that said, Eric, man, just to be honest with you, we struggle with women, connected with women and people of color. We just don't feel as comfortable as we do with other white guys. And so to be honest with you, that's a challenge. It's a struggle. We see the impact that it has on our organization, but it's just kind of the way things are. And people don't want to say that, but we're going to just lay it on the line and be honest with you. And I appreciated that. And also heard women that were saying, we've been a part of this organization for the last 25 or 30 years. And all we've seen is really sexism in the good old boys club. I would suggest to you that bias is a human condition. And I think that we have to really take off the table this notion that white people are somehow more prejudiced than other people, or white men are more prejudiced than other people, because that's just not the case. The reality is that bias is a human condition, that all people have bias. All people don't have the same power. In other words, all people don't have the same ability to affect the quality of someone else's life or the opportunities that they experience because they don't have the same power. I think that the other thing that we do is oftentimes we will sort of categorize all white people as being the same. And I think that that's a mistake. It kind of reminds me, I hate to laugh at this, but it reminds me of when I was growing up, that some people, if they were in a fight, especially if it was, girls back in the day, that, because girls are now, I mean, they're squaring up now, but back in the day, sometimes when girls fight, one would undoubtedly do what's called the windmill. Now, most of you are not old enough to remember the windmill, but I know Terry and Ken, both of y'all are familiar with the windmill. That's where you just close your eyes, you put your head down, and you just start swinging aimlessly at the other person. Now, that's no strategy at all. And so sometimes I think that people of color do sort of the windmill when we're talking about white people. We just sort of put our heads down and just start swinging at them all, calling everybody racist. And I think that you have to, in fact, be a lot more surgical than that you cannot sort of block a group of people together, as evidenced by the gentleman that I was speaking to last night, I was speaking to him about him and his son. And you know what I did? I watched beautifully as the son was just coming at me, man, with 1,000 things about his love for Trump. And his father was just there, and an almost total, complete difference from his son, but he was there lovingly with his son. And I told his son, I said, man, I'm proud of you. I said, you're a smart young man. You are handsome. You got some conviction. I don't believe it's the right conviction, but you got some conviction, man. And I will fight and die for your freedom to believe what you believe. But I'll tell you, we got some work to do, and we got some work to do around education. This week, I had the chance to spend some time again with the president of the University of Cincinnati and his top leaders as we talked about the student demands / action items that University of Cincinnati students have put forth around bringing about change. Where are we headed as a country? Are we headed towards progress? Is this the last election that we'll see a candidate like Donald Trump, or is that something that we're going to see in the future? And what conditions exist that make a Donald Trump presidency still very attractive to so many people? I would suggest to you that people in many ways have gotten fed up with the system. I would suggest to you that people believe that a lot of times their leaders don't really care about them. They talk over their heads. And so I think that out of desperation, sometimes people are just saying that I've got to go for something different. I do believe that there are people in this country who are very concerned about, nervous about what they would call the liberal agenda. That people are going to try to impose restrictions that will take away your freedoms to worship the way that you worship. So I think that there's some real concerns that people have that oftentimes I'm not sure if we're taking those into account. Ken Wilson, Terry, what do you all have to think? What do you think about this election that we're going to be experiencing? What are you seeing in the communities of people that you're talking to? Ken, I know that you're online all the time, sort of wrestling with people to help them to understand the facts about, how things have gone. And I really do believe that when you think about who you're going to vote for, you have to really try to get as much real data, real information around their record and what they have done. And so as I look at President Trump, I believe that if he would have had better advice on the front end and counsel, I believe that he could have probably easily been a two-term president. But I think that he decided to start with the strategy of nationalism and really doubling and tripling down on a frustrated sort of white electorate, if you will, in this country that feels like they have been the forgotten people. And I don't think that he ever made a credible effort in the terms of, in the words of Jim Mattis, a credible effort to be the president of the entire country. So as I look at President Trump, I don't fear the quote unquote racism in him as much as I do his lack of ability to stand behind our institutions. And I believe that that's probably the biggest concern that I have, that is his interest in connecting with our enemies, if you will, around the world, more so than our allies. I don't have a problem with challenging our allies to step up to the plate, to make greater contributions to the UN. I think that those are positive things. But I think that at some point you have to really stand and be loyal to your allies, and you have to really oppose and challenge your enemies. And if we look at Russia and China and others as being our enemies, and North Korea as being our enemies, to sort of go easy on them has been tremendously concerning to me. The other thing is that when you have become such a personality that people believe your words and that your words become their facts, for me, that's a dangerous place. And I would say that no leader should be above questioning. When I do things that don't make sense, I think that my staff has an obligation to bring those things up to me. And when they do, then that helps us as an organization to be better. You see, the work that I do is I'm a consultant, as you all know. I work with organizations. Here's a fact that we know. We know that Gallup said that in their study of full-time workers around the globe, that 85% of people don't like their jobs and 75% of people dislike their bosses. I would say to you that organizations cannot be as successful if they're not finding ways to listen to the input of people that are working with them on a daily basis. What we saw, if we go back to 2008, 2009, we saw companies letting people go. So there were less people, and then there was more work on the people that remained. In many ways, what we saw is that organizational leaders, if you're looking at organizations as a pyramid, organizational leaders started spending more time with each other and less time with people that are closest to the work and closest to the customer. There is no way for you to make the best decisions if you're not spending adequate time with people that are closest to the work, closest to the customer. No leader can make great decisions without taking inventory on their people. And one of the concerns that I have is that the president has never really respected the people that are part of his organization. He's turned over more leaders than any other president, and has probably given less credence to the insights, the wisdom, the counsel of people around him. I think that one of the things that you will see is that, the president has more people that have been close to him that have left and then said things like John Kelly said, that he's the worst person that he's ever known in his life. Why would John Kelly say something like that? And so as we go into this last weekend, I think that I have an obligation to some extent, not trying to offend those of you out there that may be listening that love our president. I believe in your freedom, your right to believe in this president. But I do also believe that sometimes we have to try to get some information to help us to see who he really is. If I look at Joe Biden, what do I think about Joe Biden and the Joe Biden presidency? Well, I think our president described him as being like a Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers, I tell you what, I like Mr. Rogers right about now. And I think Mr. Rogers was a popular character, man. We could use a Mr. Rogers for 4 years, because we need to take a collective exhale. I mean, man, we need a break right now, because I think right now we've got so many things that have us on edge. That Tommy, I'm so glad that you out of town, man, and taking a vacation, brother, because the stress that mounts up on us. How many of you, by show of hands, know that you're stressed out? That either the job and what's happening or not happening on the job, finances, or your nervousness about COVID-19. How many of us are looking at the TV every day and seeing the curve just, that thing is going off the charts. What's going on? I mean, we got more people being infected with COVID-19 than at any other point in this pandemic cycle. It's almost like, in some ways, that God is weighing in on this election. Let's see what Terry said. Everything is so unfair that I don't know what to believe. That's why I don't leave the president to change anything. I change my country within me. I hear you, Terry. So Terry is saying, look, everybody's lying. And that's why I said to the young man last night, I said, look, I get it. I said, we're not getting a lot of honesty from our politicians. And so I wouldn't suggest that any party is trying to say anything good always for us. Here's what I think that unfortunately, in many respects, parties, I'll say parties, will say to you that the other side, they're trying to push grandma off the cliff. And us, we're trying to set you free. We love you. We care about you. And I don't think that in any way is the case. I think that, that nobody wants you to be an independent thinker. I do believe that Joe Biden will pull for all America, and he will be the president of all of America. And I think that's one of my biggest problems with Donald Trump, is that Donald Trump has shown a dramatic bias towards Republicans and red states. He's demonized blue states. That is not a good attribute of a president. If you are elected to be the president of the United States of America, I believe that you have an obligation to do that. You have a solemn responsibility to look out for all of us, and not when it's convenient for you, but when it's right for us. As I spoke on a program with General John Kelly. He spoke on Thursday night. I spoke on Friday morning. I went to his speech, and John Kelly was I'd never heard him speak before, but he was honorable. That would be the word that I'd use. He said, I retired from the military, and I didn't really, I wanted to sort of sail off into the sunset. He said, but my wife told me that I didn't really have a choice. She said, John, you got to go back and serve your country one more time. The president needs you, but our country needs you. So he went back to be the president's chief of staff. And John said that he was so disappointed by Washington. He said, I've never seen a place where people were so self-absorbed about themselves. He said, every morning that I got up, he said, I would look at the Wall Street Journal. He said, I would look at the New York Times, the Washington Post. He said, I would look at CNN. I'd look at Fox. I'd look at MSNBC. He said, and then by that time, I'd get a sense of sort of where the country was. He said, and after every conversation they would have, he would end with this question: is this decision the best decision for the American people? And as I listened to him, I could almost hear the patriotic music playing in the background. And something said in me that this military man is an honorable guy. And so I stood up and I asked him a question about division. And then I made a statement. I said, General, I said, I know that you believe, probably rightfully so, that you've served your time and that you're going to just ride off into the sunset again, and that your duty is done. I said, I'm sorry to say, but you're not. Your country needs you. I said, we're struggling today to be able to determine what truth is really all about, who's telling the truth, who's not. I said, so your country needs you. We need your voice. And so I don't know if that influenced him sort of slipping out that piece. I know a lot of people have probably been weighing in on it and saying things to him. I think it's out of respect and honor that he sort of tried not to become overly political. But what he said is something that we need to be concerned about. So I never want to find myself so excited about what a person might mean to me and my image of what I want to see, that I ignore the impact that that person is having on so many other people. I think that if you've heard people say that our current president, that they're afraid to have their children sort of listen to what he's saying, then that's a problem. Anybody that would want to be our leader, but would be so comfortable talking about others. Do we all do that at times? Yeah, people do that. I remember when one of my sons came to me when they were in high school, and he said, Daddy, so-and-so's talking about me, and that's just not right. That's not right. That's not right. And I would say to them, I'd say, well, let me ask you this. Have you ever talked about them? Or have you ever talked about others? Yeah, you have. So I think that we have to be careful not to sort of ever get in a place where we begin to operate like we're holier than thou. None of us are. It's almost like biblical kind of example, ye without sin cast the first stone. But I would say when you have a president's responsibility is to demonstrate leadership. A president's responsibility is to demonstrate humility. Whatever happened to the good old days where leaders took responsibility for mistakes that they've made? Let's see what Brooke has had to say. I believe there is a bigger change in being the way you want things to be than depending on the government to enforce change. I love that. When we sort of like Gandhi say, be the change that you want to see, the ripple effect is fast and genuine. Brooke, I love that. I think that you've made a great point there. Terry says, amen. Dr. Brown, good to see you, my brother. Good to hear you. Good to hear you. And if you have a perspective, I certainly appreciate you weighing in on this. We are talking about leadership. We are rounding this final turn. I believe that that's the message that we're going to drive home. With Tommy being on vacation, Tommy just turned 50, everybody. He's a young 50, though. He's a young, handsome 50. But we are so glad that he's had a chance to go on vacation. But I want to engage you as we think about leadership and as we think about rounding this final turn. Which candidate is in the best interest of us as a nation, and what are we to expect of our leaders, and what role do we play? Because I'm going to suggest to you that the notion of us sitting back and waiting on Washington to solve our problems is a mistake. One of the things that I'm seeing right now, so if you ask me, what am I seeing on the ground? Here's what I'm seeing. Ever since the death of George Floyd, we've seen a steady and significant change around corporations and their interest in engaging in meaningful conversations around diversity. And I'm encouraged by that. I just spoke with a couple of CEOs this last week, new clients that we're bringing on board. And I'll tell you that there's a sincerity there. There's an appetite for people to be engaged in honest conversations around how do we make sure that we are becoming aware of our biases and that we're managing those in ways that doesn't allow those to negatively affect others. I'm going to give you sort of, for those of you that are trying to work on your biases, by show of hands, let's see how many of you out there doing it. You're working on your biases. Come on now, put your hands up. I can't see you. But I would suggest that too often, not enough of us are taking inventory on our own biases. I tell you, it's quite easy to see the flaws in others. I'll never forget when I gave my life to God. I gave my life to God, and I was an enthusiastic Christian. I was going into churches back when we could go to church. I was going into churches, and I was seeing all of the quote unquote hypocrites in the pews. I'm saying to myself, that's a liar. He's still going out to clubs all the time. That person's sleeping with all the women in the church. I mean, I was really recognizing all of the sin and shortcomings in others. And I felt like I got a little word from God that said something like this. Eric, my brother, it is so interesting to see how good of eyesight that you have around the sins of others. God says, I'm going to need you to stop judging the people in the church and to recognize that the church is a hospital. And guess what? You're in it as well. And so I need you to become better at identifying and working on the things that are challenges within yourself. And so I'll tell you, God always comes to us with things that challenge us. And, and I think that we have an obligation to keep growing. One of the things that the young man said to me last night, he said, my faith is important to me. He said, and Mr. Ellis, he says, I'm not sure if I got this one right. He said, I know that many Germans were deceived by Hitler. He says, and I don't want to find myself there. And his father said to me, Eric, he said, man, I really appreciate you being patient and loving with my son. He said, I keep trying to tell him, do you know who you're talking to? I mean, Mr. Ellis, this is the work that he does. I told him, no. I'm not offended by that at all. I mean, I'm loving his passion, man. I'm loving his passion. I'm loving his energy, and I'm loving him. So I'm going to say something to all of you that make sure that you don't ever find yourself getting so caught up in politics that you allow them to take away your freedom to love somebody who dramatically disagrees with what you believe. You see, the enemy wins when we turn on each other and we believe that the righteousness of our beliefs is so strong that we no longer have to show respect to others who see things differently. Let's see what we have here. All right, William, let's see. I believe we should be forward focused as a people, because if we look for them to change for us, we may change into them. Oh, that's just what I was just kind of saying. I just want to be a better example, and hopefully people will follow that example. My brother, my brother, my brother. On my good days, that's right. On my good days, I want to be a great example. And then on some other days, I'm just another person. And you know what? I'm grateful that I get to join humanity. I'm grateful that every moment of every day, I get a chance, the opportunity to make decisions that will either advance the cause of man, that will either advance the strength and the health of my relationship with my wife, my family, or it will hurt it. And I wish that I could say that every decision I ever make is the right one. I wish I could say that I was this perfect individual that is making and has made great choices all of my life, but I haven't. I've made mistakes, and I try to learn and grow from those. But what happens is that I'll tell you that it's an honor, it's a real gift when God allows you to see yourself. And none of us sees ourselves perfectly, but if you are able to see your strengths and your shortcomings, I believe that it will bring upon you a degree of humility that won't allow you to have so much fervent anger and hatred toward people who see things differently. You see, a lot of the researchers say that the first victims of Hitler were Germans. And I would say that there are many people in our country who have been so disillusioned by our political processes that they've just been in many ways hoodwinked a bit by our president. Some of them seem clearly and just believe that his policies are right. If you are a conservative, there's no way that you are not thrilled to death. How many? Three Supreme Court justices, man. There are people that say, I got my money's worth. I mean, that's all I needed out of Trump was 3 conservative appointments. Now the liberals are going to try to pack the courts. Pack the courts. That's what they're going to try to do. What do you call 3 Supreme Court justices if it ain't packing your courts? And so it's interesting the times that we're living in. I told people that one of the things that I did in one of my workshops back when we were meeting in person is I asked the crowd, I said, how many in here are enthusiastic supporters of the president and feel like he's getting the short end of the stick? About 4 or 5 hands went up. I said, hey, I want you to circle around. Just make a fishbowl for me. And that's what we did. And I started asking them questions like this. I said, why don't you tell me what you love most about the president? So they started sharing. I love this about him. I think that he's a truth teller and he's conservative and I love his policies. You know, he really is about conservative values and he's really pulling for this country, man. He cares about us. Okay, great. I asked him, I said, what are some examples of the things, the areas in which you feel like the president is being misunderstood or he's being described in ways that aren't honest or really reflective of who he is? And they started weighing in on that. I think that the media doesn't like him. They take shots at him all the time. Sometimes people don't like that he tells the truth. He tells it like it is. He doesn't believe in political correctness. So sometimes people falsely call him a racist. He's not a racist, you know, and they were adamant about that. And I asked him a couple other questions. And then I said, thank you. And they looked at me with this perplexed look. Like, huh? Hey, when's the other shoe drop? Hold up. We're done? You're not going to sort of bash the president and tell us how foolish we are? No. I said, I just want to demonstrate to you what it looks like to just be curious. You see, because sometimes I think that instead of arguing and debating people, sometimes when you have confidence in what you believe, you might be able to make room to be kind to others and just be curious about where they stand. And so I can tell you this, if you love our president, I'll find a way to love you. And I don't have to agree with him. I don't have to believe in him. I don't have to like him. But I will stand strong and fight hard for your freedom to believe what you believe. I would just say this, that one of the things I would recommend to all of us is that we try to find a way to move out of our echo chambers. What do I mean? Some of you have heard that term before, so you already know it. But I find that because of social media, that many of us are being trapped in our own silos, and we're only getting information that is the kind of information that we want to hear. It is so tempting. It's so attractive. I mean, I listen to sometimes an overdose of certain kind of media, and it's not helpful. And so you have to really check in with perspectives that challenge the one that you have. Let's see what others have said. Terry said, I honestly think you'll make a good no way, I'm not going for it, Terry. I'm not going for it unless you're my vice president or my chief intelligence officer. I take you and Kim Wilson there, man. You know, you, Kim Wilson, Bill Brown. I think I got my cabinet. Let's go do this thing. Let's go do it. It ain't too late. Kanye is on the ballot in a couple places. I guess we get our name out there. And so Williams says he's not a racist. He's a bigot, is what I hear a lot. He's not a racist. He's a bigot. Say more about that. But I think that people are, and for those of us that loved President Obama, man, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. I got to say this. I have been enjoying this new Obama. I have been enjoying this new spicy Obama. I mean, he been just out there freestyling. Like, I've been waiting 4 years to get this told. And I mean, he coming hard with it. And, you know, I admire that. And the thing is, as I look at my value system, I have to make sure that I never get so caught up in the arena of politics. In many ways, it's like a Super Bowl. And so tribalism can kick in a way that causes you to be so busy celebrating your side that you don't even give any thought to what's happening on the other side. And so on the days that I'm doing my work, let me just start there. On the days that I'm doing my work, my personal work, and I think about the other side. I've even found a couple opportunities, only a couple, across the president's tenure to pray for him. You may call me crazy. Maybe I've been doing this work too long, but there are times that I think about the loneliness and the isolation that President Trump feels on a regular basis. And if you listen to him real closely, you'll hear some of his insecurities come out. I heard him say one time, he said, if I lose to Joe Biden, I will have lost to the worst candidate ever. That's a huge fear of his, that he literally could be embarrassed in his view on a world stage by losing to Joe Biden. So I think that a lot of times his insecurities have caused him to say how great he is and how brilliant he is. I can tell you, I'm ADHD. And so I grew up with some insecurities around reading. I'll never forget when I was in elementary school back in the SRA days. I know most of you went over your head, but I know Terry, Bill, Ken Wilson, y'all remember the SRA reading labs where you go in there, you sit down and you go color coded from green to red to orange to purple. Man, I see kids going up past me. They go up to get their, and ADHD, you know what that is? Reading a little bit, then looking around. Reading a little bit, looking around. Then reading, then starting over, then looking around. And I could never, almost never get through a passage because I was so distracted. And all of that made me feel as though I wasn't very smart. It was a long time before I really realized that I was a thinker, that was thoughtful. I think I went all the way to graduate school. You know, I knew people say, you know, you got the gift of gab, but that's another way of saying you ain't that smart. And so people would always say that to me. And I always had this squishy spot inside of me around my intelligence. I never really fully thought that I was the smart guy until I went to graduate school and I was in there with students that went to Harvard. And all of a sudden I realized, hey, you know, and when I went to graduate school, I'd given my life to God. And so I was no longer out at the clubs all the time. Because in college, when I was playing ball, I mean, I was having a good old time. I mean, I was partying. I was kicking it with the ladies and playing ball on TV, signing autographs. Man, that was a blast. And so I just barely skid out of undergrad. I mean, you know, I just barely squeaked by. And then I was trying to get a job, and they were looking at my transcript like, hey, you won the national championship, didn't you? Ooh, but look at these grades. Well, we'll keep you on file, you know. And when I got enough of those, I realized that I needed to go back to school to get my master's degree to prove to people that I could think. And finally, I was in graduate school, and the professor that let me in, he was he remembered me from Wright State playing ball there, but he actually thought that I was just another dumb athlete. And so the first semester that I went through his class, man, I was doing it. Quantitative analysis, I was doing it. I was training others. I was tutoring others on the class, and I get a B. And in graduate school, that's not good. And so I was like, what is this? He said, well, Eric, I thought you was trying to brown nose me. Brown nose? What? Brown? Next semester, I ain't say nothing to him. Mano a mano, let's go, baby. So I went through it like boom, 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 boom. I'm killing it. He said, yeah, final project's worth half your grade. If you turn it in early, I'll look it over and give you feedback. I got mine done, turned it in 2 weeks early. Yeah, baby. I did it. You can call me no brown nose. I ain't say nothing to you. So he waited and he waited. He waited until 2 days left in the class. And then he gave me back my work and said, Ellis, this is insufficient. He said, you gave me data for 10 cases. I need 100. 100. I said, what do you mean you need 100? I said, there's only 2 days left in the class. I said, you said if we turned it in early and if you had any problems with it, you would give it back to us. I gave it to you 2 weeks ago. You're just now giving it to me. You know what he thought? Yeah, brother, I got you. You think you ain't talking to me? I'm the heat here. I'll never forget going home, Waycross Road, going up to my bedroom. I was staying with my mother. And I laid down on my bed and I said, I've lost. That my pride has caused me to lose a battle. And then some of you may remember cassette tapes. I took one of the cassette tapes that I didn't even know what it was on, and I threw it in the box and I put it on. And the song was Heavy Load, God's gonna lighten up my heavy load. And with that song, I got up, I started praising. And then I went to the library and I spent 16 hours on one day and I spent 14 hours on another day. And back then, Ken, I know you remember this, where they had the long computer paper that used to come out the computer paper. So I got it all done. I got 100 cases done because I knew what I was doing. And he said he didn't want the work. He just wanted you to turn the paper in. So with an hour left before the deadline, I took my paper to his office, but I put my work in there. Like, whatever you give me, man, it don't matter to me because I turned it in. You didn't defeat me. And I ended up getting an A. Huh? And he said to me afterwards, he said, Eric, he said, you surprised me. He says, I've never seen another like you. He said, I'm a quantitative analysis guy. He said, my statistical assumption was that you weren't up to the task, that you were just another dumb, stereotypical athlete. He said I was wrong. And he and I actually worked on a couple projects together. But I share that with you to say that so today, if somebody sort of questions my intelligence, sometime I go back to that third grader who's in class and people are going by and you don't think that you're very smart. And so you fight back, you push back, you say sometimes even arrogant things because you're trying to cover over hurt in your life. So as I look at Trump, there are times that that's a part of what I see. Now, some of you may never be able to see that, but I think it's important for me never to lose my own humanity. So on some days when I can, get up enough, get past all the frustration and anger that I have about this president and the way that he divides us, sometimes I do have compassion for him and feel a bit sorry for him because it's a lonely place. And if he loses on Tuesday, I think you're going to see some interesting things. I think that Mitch McConnell has already weighed in and demonstrated a lack of confidence in his ability to win this next election by not pushing through this last stimulus. I think the Republicans are recognizing that they are now sort of carrying the largest amount of debt of any administration in the history of our country. They've increased our national debt by trillions of dollars. And so I think that he was actually just trying to avoid this last investment. But in fact, because of the pandemic that we're experiencing, I think that it's the right thing to do to look out for the American people. Anybody else, any other thoughts that you have about leadership, about how you are navigating through this space yourself? What do you think about the two candidates? What do you think about the vice presidential candidates? Kamala Harris, first African-American female vice president. I mean, that's a powerful thing. I think that we have to recognize that both presidential candidates are well deep into their 70s. And there's a strong possibility that either of them may not make it through the full term this next time. What do you think about these vice presidential candidates? And does presidential politics, does it even matter anymore? What are the things, what will it take to heal our nation? Let's just for a minute, because I'm probably going to wrap up maybe around 10:30, but we'll see. What happens? I want you to play out both scenarios. A Biden victory, what happens on Wednesday in the country? A Trump victory, what happens on Wednesday? How does our nation respond? I think that in many ways, our president in some regards, but Democrats also in other regards, have already muddied up the electorate and the nation, if you will, to believe that if their candidate doesn't win, that there's nothing but foul play on the other side. So what do we do with a nation of people that now don't have confidence that the system is right? I can tell you this, I think we all might agree on this, that if Russia has had anything to do with this, oh man, they're just overjoyed by what they've gotten back for their meddling in our elections, because we are now doing the work of our enemies ourselves. We are literally turning on one another. I was talking to this young man last night, and he said that, I went to get some bullets today. They're all gone. What does it mean that everybody's loading up, stocking up on guns and bullets? I think it means that there's a fear among conservatives that with a shift in the presidency, that there may not be the availability of weapons and bullets. That's what I think. But I gotta know that there's also this view that the great race war somehow is going to ensue after this election, and people are trying to ready themselves. But I got news for you. I got news for you that whoever is preparing to do whatever on the day or week after the election, I got news for you. You're going to learn something. You live in America. You ain't going for that. We're not going for that. That's not going to happen. Whatever dreams you have of anarchy, of upending this whole thing, of overturning the apple cart, you will take your little guns, whatever, come out on the street. No, man, that's over. Ain't none of that about to happen. You about to see the jail. That's what you about to see. It ain't going to happen. We're not going to see that. It's going to be, we're going to break all that down. But I would say that I probably have the greatest concern for what happens if Trump wins. Don't want to see that one, because I think that could be the uglier of the two. Biden wins. I think over time we just kind of settle in. I mean, Biden has garnered the support of older white people. He's garnered the support of almost every group, other than he's struggling with probably with Hispanic, Latinx men, African-American men a little bit. So let's see. I totally see insecurities in Trump for sure. William, yeah, and that's the thing, man. And right now we're seeing him just going down memory lane. He's actually going to friendly places where he can talk to people that love him. And so I would say that that's part of the problem. This is quite an experiment. And the experiment that he's running is, can I drive up the love language of my base to a high enough point that it overwhelms the competition? Can I, in fact, thwart the will of diversity? So diversity and inclusion is on the ballot. In other words, can you zero in on one group and literally drive up the positives there so strong that you overwhelm the need to be inclusive? I do this work for a living, and I would suggest you can't. That if you don't find a way to be inclusive of all people, you notice that Joe Biden, Kamala Harris could not ignore white voters, white workers, the working class, the blue collar, coal miners, all of those. Biden has recognized that you got to have a message for them. Let's see what people are saying to us. Harris being picked kind of turned me against Biden. Okay, she is not for us, and I think Indian. She put a lot of brothers in the system. So William is saying, and there's certainly a community of people that feels like she was, as a prosecutor, she put a lot of black men away. And so it's hard for them to forgive that travesty. I would say that many people of color in communities and in places of power sort of were looking at sort of the height of the drug epidemic. And we were vilifying people who were taking advantage of the weakest in our neighborhoods. And so this notion of super predator that Hillary Clinton sort of described, I think was, the Black Caucus was even putting legislation in place to say that you can't keep taking advantage of our community. And I think that a bunch of us missed it. Nobody likes to look at how they missed it too. It's easy to look at somebody else and say they missed it. No, I would say to you that many missed it. But it's almost like Dr. King. You know, everybody says that they love Dr. King now. At the end of Dr. King's life, he was struggling with white people and black people. I mean, white people were still struggling with him. I mean, in the North, they're throwing rocks at him, hitting him all in the head. Black people are like, we done with all that peaceful protest crap. You know, so I think that we all sort of, in retrospect, look back and everybody says that he was their hero. He's their hero today. So I think that most of us kind of conveniently forget, especially if you ain't got no tape on it, we conveniently forget what we were saying. I do know that it's very clear to us now that we have changed our view of people addicted to drugs today. So when the face of drugs was black, we then more demonized it. When the face of drugs is more white with heroin and opioids, I think that we now demonstrate more empathy. I I saw a police officer one time on TV recently. He was crying over the impact of opioids on the Appalachian community. And I cry as well. I really do. I think that that's the way we should have been looking at this forever, that people that have been taken advantage of and have been swooped up on drugs. And I think that we can almost anticipate a lot of that being the response to the stress, the pressure that we're under this epidemic. So thank you, William. I appreciate that. Ken says this is a referendum on America, either outcome. It really is, Ken. And the question is, which America will lead the way, and then what does that mean? I don't know, man. I believe that that Biden has the right temperament to be our nation's president. I like boring, man. Jeez. I mean, I'm ready for boring. I'm tired of getting ulcer every day, looking at TV and seeing the crazy things. But I tell you, here's what I know, that we are experiencing what I've described as the weaknesses of capitalism and freedom. And I love both of those. But capitalism says make as much money as you can. Freedom says you can do whatever you want to do. So if the media is a business, which they are, their job is to make as much money as they can make. How do they do that? Well, getting as many viewers as they can get. Well, how do they do that? Well, they do that with sensationalism and things that will garner our attention. So we know that the brain tends to hold on to the negative. And so if you show me a news story on a young man walking, a senior citizen across the street, that's nice. But if you show me a picture of a young man taking the cane away from the old lady, hitting her over the head, taking the bag, stepping on her, and running down the street, we all there. And so I would say that there is a built-in incentive to show us the extreme and the negative in a way that puts us out of balance as a people. And so, if I don't think people are as divided as we're told we are, but if you tell us we hate each other enough, we'll kill each other. And so media, and I don't want to put all the blame at the feet of the media. I think that they show us what we pay for. But if the media is trying to make money, and then they have the freedom to do certain things, I think that they're going to ride that out the whole way. And I think sometimes that backfires, and I'm not sure if that may be the case again this time around. Let's see. Has she acknowledged that she has made a mistake in that area? Bill, I think that's a great question. Probably not. A little bit. Nobody wants to be on tape saying that they made mistakes. Strategically, they generally don't do it because they don't want people to have film of that so they can show you sort of on a round-the-clock type tip. I was wrong. I was wrong. I was wrong. I made a mistake. You got it. I made a mistake. Now I'll be closing out the commercials of my opponents talking about I made a mistake. If she knows she made a mistake, then you don't make the same mistake. Vote for me. So that's what we get here, that we as a public are not sophisticated enough to be able to oftentimes discern between these messages. And so it doesn't leave much room. We saw Biden in the last debate sort of admit his mistake around some of his support, for what it's worth. Ken says, I love Kamala. I believe she'll be president one day. She was a prosecutor and a good one. I'm in full support of her. Blacks are overly critical of our own. Okay, so let me tell you this. I tell you, the Democrats. So I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I vote both ways. And I tell you though, man, the Democrat side, man, they're a fickle side, man. That is a fickle side. I mean, we throw them under the bus for nothing. We'll micromanage every one of their little records and literally let craziness on the other side not even move us. So thank you for weighing in on that. Two great brothers, two great perspectives. Don't have to be on the same page because we are a unique people in and of ourselves. Well, it's going to be interesting. We are 3 days away. Can you count with me? Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. How many of you by show of hands already voted? Come on now, put your hand up in there. I see you. I see you out there. I already voted. And I'm glad that I got that out of the way. And, I love that, Bill. I got to stop here for this. Love. Love is a strong word. I thought you were saying love is a strong word. You were saying that Ken's word, love is a strong word, is questionable. But I'm going to go with the fundamental definition of love is a strong word. And I'm going to say it is a strong word. And I want to say to those of you that have checked in with Eric Ellis and Diversity Conversations this morning, I love you. I really do. I really do. I love you. I love you. I love you. And I'll tell you that that's what will give us life. So here's what I want to say to you. Find yourself taking more opportunities to pour love on others than hate or than despise. You see, as I start thinking about love, as I start thinking about it, the people that I love, my wife, my children, as I think about them, as I think about my deep commitment to them, as I think about my friends here who I love, both those of you that I just met and those of you I've known for a lifetime, I feel blessed. I feel very, very, very wealthy. That's right. Baby, I feel rich because I got people in my life that love me and that I love. And so every day I get up, you know what it feels like? For me, it feels like Christmas. I used to remember when I was a kid, man, wait on Christmas to come around so I could get down there, snatch off the wrappers, get me some new toys, shut them up, go play with them. I remember when the race cars used to come out to speed tracks. Man, I love those little tracks with the cars that you just, back them up, and they go around. I didn't know that those tracks were going to be used as to whip me with. That wasn't right. My daddy would pick up some of the tracks sometimes, and, you get a whooping with a track. That ain't a good feeling, big old rubber track. But I'll tell you that that's the way I feel about the people around me, the people that work on my team. I love them. Love is a strong word. And I think that we ought to find ourselves utilizing that more. I think that love has the ability to heal you, to heal your body. Right now, we are in the midst of COVID-19, a global pandemic. We're in the midst of a racial and cultural pandemic. You cannot allow yourself to be stressed out by this thought of hopelessness and a hopeless future. I want to say to you that love gives us a bright future. I was so glad that my son Evan was at the game last night, and I'm debating this young man, and he's just my wingman on the side. He ain't saying a thing, but he's listening attentively, like, is daddy winning or losing, And but I love the gifts that God has given me. You see, I wanted children when I was a child, and I couldn't be any happier. If I talk about it too long, I'll be in tears because I love the gifts that God has given me. And the gift of love is greater than any other thing that we can experience. And I believe that one of the prerequisites for receiving love is giving love. I think that you've got to be willing to get up each day and not simply just think about you, yourself, your bank account. You have to think about your willingness to invest something in others. The music that I do, I love writing music. I love writing songs. I got a song I'm working on right now. I've written 300 songs over the last 11 years. And whenever something crazy happens, I'll write a song. And so, the songs that I write many times give me life. And so right now, our business is so busy that it's hard to find time to do the things that I love. But I'm forcing in there time to make music. because I want to send a message back to the world that we can care about each other. I believe that the work that I do in many respects makes me like an old school superhero. Yeah, that's how I feel on my good days. You see, I don't really oversee arguments and debates. I don't try to create controversy. I actually try to create environments where people can experience love. That's it. I want to say to people that I care about you. I honor your freedom to believe what you want to believe. And I believe that our days go better when we care about each other. That's what I believe. Does somebody have to take up the fight and push back and challenge? Yes, I believe in that. I've done that in my life. Tommy and I were talking about it yesterday. We was talking about how we love, when somebody's like out of line or bully or just running over people, we kind of like addressing those folks. I mean, Tommy was doing some acting yesterday where he said he he tries to get right in the line of fire with people like that. In other words, oh, you tough, you just gonna disregard everybody. Okay, trying to get right in front of you so that you experience somebody that don't have no fear of that. I know Terry Cooley is like that. I love that about Terry. Terry is one of the toughest people that I know, but one of the most loving people that I know in my life. And I'm so grateful for that. He's just like a big teddy bear. He was that way in college. Ken says, Ken said, who is right, me or Bill? Ain't that nothing? He's a troublemaker, y'all. I'm telling you, he does financial counseling and planning, but he also is a troublemaker. Now, he's brilliant about money. Bill, you and Ken need to talk to each other because y'all two sides of the same coin. Both of y'all brilliant brothers, man, that have great perspectives and great wisdom. And so, who's right, me or Bill? Ain't that nothing? Both of y'all right. I'm the parent. Both of y'all right. But I think that what we have to do is we have to leave room. And I see both of you doing it, actually. We have to leave room for the wisdom and wise counsel of people, there you go, of people that see things differently than we do. And so I'm grateful. When I think about this platform that we have, I'm so grateful for that. I was showing this. I just got a couple of new interns on board with us. And I was showing one of them one of the shows with me and Tommy. And she was just blown away by that, saying, Eric, I've just never seen anything like this. And she says, I'm listening to one person's perspective and on edge, waiting on the other person's perspective. And it's just like, And so I'm just so grateful for these moments that we have together. You see, because many of us, when I grew up, it felt like the world was much slower. And you got a chance to know your neighbors and you got a chance to spend more time talking to each other. You're either talking smack on a basketball court or on a football field when I lived in Skyline Acres, but you got a chance to interact with each other. And we've lost that. We've lost that opportunity to spend enough time with each other. So this platform right here gives us a chance to then be able to talk to each other, to laugh with each other, to share some perspective. Fort Wayne's finest. Bill says the kid, you are clearly right in your world, my brother. I told you, two sharp edges there, iron sharpening iron. Let's see. Judy says, what's happening at UC with the students? Well, we are moving forward. And I am so grateful for the opportunity that I've had to work with some of UC's most brilliant young people. I met with them a couple of weeks ago, and I gotta say, it was an awesome evening because I love young people, and I'm going along. We just having a good discussion, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I felt one sort of grab me by the leg and another grab me sort of, sort of from a modeling standpoint, grab the other leg. And they were really trying to throw me overboard. Like, we done with you, Brad. We about to throw the facilitator overboard. And so I said, well, you know how sometimes when you try to lift people up when we was young and they would just get heavy, just double down, get heavy. That's what I did. I doubled down, got heavy. But I so appreciated, and when they came for me, I was proud of that. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to stand up for what you believe. When you don't, when you're not sure that that you're getting a fair hearing, then you push back with everything inside of you. And I thanked them for that and honored them for that. And by the time we got through, they were like, okay, Mr. Ellis, we good, we good, we good. We appreciate this. Because I was just educating them about the process and how the process works. You know, the president is involved, but I am the mediator, the negotiator, the facilitator, if you will. And so, you know, that's what we're trying to do. Judy, see, that's what I love about Judy. Judy, like, if I'm in life, she'll kick me under the table. And then I'll say, Judy, why are you kicking me under the table? You know, she tried to give me a code, but I can't get it. You know, one word context. I don't know what to do with that, you know? And so, but here's the thing, that if you're ever blessed enough to have a good significant other who is really in your corner pulling for you, count yourself blessed. And I would say it'd be best to not say nothing. You know, just get the lesson if you can get it. But I'm confused, so I can't get the lesson right now. Ken has called her Gary, Indiana's finest. And I would say that my wife is one of the brightest people, one of the sharpest people I've ever met. And she is brilliant in her own business right now. She's going gangbusters in making differences in institutions. And I couldn't be more proud of a successful entrepreneur and consultant. I'll tell you, so when you live with somebody, you know, you learn a lot about each other. You see a lot of our common experiences over the years. And I've watched over the years where people have not really taken full advantage of what Judy Ellis understands and knows. I watched her at Procter & Gamble have great success, but I watched her in some situations where bosses didn't really honor the brilliance and the wisdom that exists within her. A lot of times people will unwisely dismiss that. And so here's what I've seen in the last week with Judy. Judy is potentially going to be working with a high school here in the Cincinnati community. And so she went over to meet with them. It was supposed to be maybe a 45-minute meeting or something like that. 2.5 hours later, she's finally coming out of the meeting. Is midnight or whatever it was. But it was obvious that they had a great conversation, that they were proud to interact with a brilliant woman of color who they felt might be able to offer them some support. She's got another client that she's consulting with that, you know, there are times that people of color even begin to question you. Sometimes when you're very skilled at dealing with the dominant culture, then people in the non-dominant culture begin to question, are you Black? You know, but some of the counsel that she's been able to provide and that the leadership has received and it's influenced them in a positive cultural way, I think speaks volumes of her ability as a thinker, as a strategist, as an effective consultant. I certainly have been the benefactor of that. My children, my family has been the benefactor of that. And I love our collaboration. I got to make one joke though. She's not going to like this joke, but I got to make it anyway. I just can't resist it because I'm ADD. So, you know, I was telling her about a new strategic partner that I was developing, and she was coming at me. And so I say on my humorous, funny days, I'll say that Judy is a gifted pessimism. So she's the pessimist, and I'm the extreme optimist, unrealistically so. And so together, those match up to a nice, balanced perspective. And so she was coming at me one day with double barrels of pessimism. I said, whoa, time out. Let me just get the concept out there. I said, but I want you to meet with the vendor. I want you to store up as much pessimism as you can. as many questions as you can and dump it all on him. Because if he's the right candidate, he's got to be able to withstand the questioning of the brilliant Judith Ann Ellis. And they had that conversation. But I really, all jokes aside, I have benefited from her wise counsel. My optimism, sometimes it's a great thing. It's a good gift to have, but it can get you into trouble. And I want to tell you this. I want you to hear me this. Those of you that are in relationships, I'm going to tell you that your brain, believe it or not, your brain is not always working on your side. Slow that down. I'm going to say it again. Your brain is not always working on your side. Sometimes my brain has told me, Eric, let's do this. Don't tell Judy. Don't tell her. You know she's going to rain on your parade. Come on, brother. Let's just do it. And sometimes I have foolishly listened to that little voice that's telling me to just do it. Now, there's another voice in there that's saying, check with Judy. But my brain is saying, no, don't check with her. Just do it, brother. You're free. You're a man. Be the man. Man, I now know that voice is not coming from heaven. You know when they used to say in the church, if you got two numbers in your head, the small one's from the devil. I tell you, if you got two voices in your mind, the loud one is from the devil. The small one is from heaven. You got to find ways to listen to that small voice. Let's see what she said here. Realism is not realism is not pessimism, okay? I always have an optimistic worldview. I agree with that. I totally agree with that. And she does bring a heavy dose of realism. But that would then suggest that my view is not very realistic, which would be another dig. But I'll tell you what, we have had 31 fantastic years. We're probably having more fun today doing similar work. Every evening, she has an amazing story and a lot of energy around the beautiful work that she's doing with clients. Now, if we can just get her to charge them, I think we'll be in a really good place. But she's just really enjoying making a difference for the clients that she serves. I've learned things from her over the course of our 30 years of being in business, and continue to learn things from her today. And I hope she learns a few things from me. We get a chance to bounce things off of each other, which is really, really helpful. I'm grateful that she stuck this thing out with me. Any other perspectives that you all have before we go towards home stretch? Because of you, we have made it through this broadcast, and I've had fun, especially every time that you weigh in with a point of view or perspective. It enriches the conversation that we have. So let's just summarize one more time that this election, if you haven't voted already, I'm going to strongly encourage you to go out and make your voice heard. You live in one of the greatest nations in the world, but you can never find yourself sitting on the sidelines and being critical of what's happening in the arena. And I believe that our work must go beyond politics. There's so much work that we must do with each other in our community. I can tell you that if any of you out there begin to support each other, when we begin to look out for each other, when we begin to say, hey, you're looking for a job, who do I know that has a job? That our greatest work can be done with each other. And so I'm going to encourage you to make an investment in yourself, in your family, in your community, in others, because that investment will not come back void. I believe that that as we make investments in each other, we make investments in the world around us. And I think that's the greatest work that we have to do. Don't find yourself being a great critic. I want you to find yourself as being an advocate for others. That's what I try to do. I'm so excited about what's happening in our business right now. I love what I do, that I get the opportunity to try to transform communities, organizations, and the world around me. And there's not anything that gives me more joy than that. But none of that would be worth anything if I didn't first start by loving God, loving the family that he's given me, the wife he's given me, the brilliant wife that he's given me, and these amazing children that I have. And every day that I see them, I see our future. And so I thank you all, every one of you that tuned in today to join me in another installment in our diversity conversations. Hopefully, Tommy Lewis will join us again next week because I miss him bad. I really, a lot of times people think when you are a talker that you just enjoy talking no matter what, and that if your co-host is gone, then you got the whole airtime all by yourself. Well, that's not all that it's cracked up to be. And I can tell you, I miss you, Tommy. Wish you were here today because I love hearing your laughter. I love your thoughtfulness. I love the way that you're willing to be self-reflective and transparent and humble. And that's what makes this work. But today, I think I did a decent job of standing in without you because of the community. Community, I love you. Take care of each other. If you haven't voted, make sure you do that. And no matter what, make sure that you fight to keep America together, no matter what the outcome. Take care.